Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the Mezco Family Guy, Peter Griffin. One of the things that you guys always ask me is when Spot's actually going to have a look at the Family Guy action figures. Maybe not necessarily Family Guy figures from Playmates, because I think that was an ill-fated line that just never took off, but the original Mezco line of figures that became hugely successful. And I don't know how many waves of Family Guy figures that Mezco actually released, but there were tons. I figured that's first thing. Let's start with the original one that started it all. Let's start with Peter Griffin, and then of course we'll have the look at the other Griffin household members and the other members of Quahog. It says as seen on TV. It says also buy this now. That's very cool. I recommend for ages 15 and up. Spin around the back of the package. The 6-inch scale figures consist of Peter Griffin, Brian, Stewie. There's also a box set of minis. There's also a box set too that featured the 6-inch scale figures all contained. So if you weren't able to necessarily get all of these individually, you could also have always gone the route of getting the the much bigger box set. To check out more from Mezco Toyz, you can go to www.mezcotoyz, and that's toys with a Z.com. And that being said, Spot's going to take a break. I'm going to get this opened up, and we're going to have a better look at Peter Griffin. There's definitely more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When it comes to Peter Griffin's accessories, he does come with two. First things first, he comes with Pawtucket Patriot Ale. There's a little spout even on the top. Quite like that. It's basically just a gray plastic cylinder, as you can see, and then it's got the sticker of Pawtucket Patriot Ale on the front, and also the back. The other accessory that comes with Peter Griffin is his remote control for his TV. Cast in what appears to be black plastic. There's a little bit of gray on the front there, and a couple of buttons in green. Not to mention the red on the front, red sensor. Obviously, by the big claw-like hands that Peter has, he can hold his accessories. We can put the Patriot Ale in one hand and twist the hand. You can also take the remote control. And it's not quite how one would imagine him holding the remote. He kind of holds it more so like that, as opposed to, of course, pointing it at the TV. Bring the camera back a little bit. Take this out of his hand. Now the one drawback, and I've already seen that, not so much with the Pawtucket Ale, or the Patriot Ale, but the remote control, putting it in his hand is not the easiest. Actually, let's try the other hand. Maybe the other hand fares better. Holds it a little bit better. I guess you could really put him in either hand. But as you're twisting the remote into his hand, be warned. Fare thee warned, says I, that twisting it can remove a little bit of paint from his hand, or for that matter, could remove it from the remote. So be warned. Put those to the side, put the can also to the side. There's something about Family Guy figures, and I guess really for that matter, is taking something that's, for the most part, a two-dimensional image and making it 3 dimensions. You could make it the 4th dimension, but that would involve time travel, and that's just too complicated, especially for this guy to handle. But taking something 2-dimensional and taking it and transferring it into a 3-dimensional plastic figure sometimes isn't always a successful feat. I think Peter fares better than, say, the likes of, and we're going to be looking at Stewie as well in a later video, but like Stewie I don't think has ever really translated well to a figure form. It's just something about Stewie I don't think that does well when it comes to an action figure. Peter, though, looks pretty good. Does he look a lot like the cartoon? Well, again, you have to imagine that the figure is 2 dimensions. You may not necessarily always be looking at him this way. You might be always maybe seeing him in the show kind of like this. And for that reason, yeah, I could see it. It does look like Peter. Maybe from the front on, not as much. From kind of angled sides, yeah, I could see it. I could see it. His shirt is much more colored than in the cartoon. The cartoon, it obviously is a more stark white color. In the figure, Mezco has done a little bit of extra shading going on there as well. Shading around where the areas which be wrinkles, the folds and creases. Areas around his sleeves also that have been rolled up have also been painted in. I'm not crazy about all the extra paint, and maybe that is one other issue I have with the figure besides him with the holding of the remote. But I wish his shirt was just more straight white as opposed to it having all this extra shade. Again, I could see what they were going for. They were looking for taking, once again, a two-dimensional property and converting it to a three-dimensional form. But I think it really needed just to be more of a straighter white. Almost to what, let's say, what Playmates did with their Simpsons figures. Homer Simpson, I think, more has just a straight white shirt than, what they've done with Peter. It gives it extra depth. Don't certainly get me wrong, but I think I would have preferred it just a little more white, maybe about the color of, Peter's glasses. When it comes to Peter's articulation, his head does rotate left and right. It, by all intents and purposes, could also allow you to rotate the head all the way around, but it adds stress to the figure's head, and it would also kill him. Don't kid yourself. It would kill Peter just like that. And then he would probably come back as a walker. You'd have to just put him down. I mean, that's just too much hassle. Arms rotate all the way around as well. No articulation in the forearm section. And he also has a straight swivel in the waist. Some would say simplistic in articulation, yes, but really for a cartoon representation of Peter Griffin, you don't want to start dealing with elbows and knees and stuff like that. Also to note too, he's not that heavy. He's a lighter feeling piece. Really like him though. Really like him. He's older. All the Family Guy figures are older now. The property went over to, I don't know where it stands now, but the property went over, I think, to Playmates for a while. Playmates had planned some stuff with like the interactive environments, kind of like what they did with the Simpsons. And I don't think it ever worked. I think we got 2 play sets. We got 4 or 5 figures. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Mezco still trumps it with what they released for an entire line of Quahog characters. Everyone from Mayor West to Death, everybody in between were covered as Mezco really faithfully represented this line. And Spot's going to have a couple of course, Family Guy figure reviews lined up. We're going to try to have a look at all the figures from Family Guy. In the meantime, today's toy spot, we were starting it with, of course, Mr. Family Guy himself. We were looking today at the Mezco Family Guy Peter Griffin. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more toy spots heading your way. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.